I would like to apologise for turning in late. It was a traffic problem. My name's Pauline Mellon and I'm an independent person from Derry. Over the past few years I have come to realise that things in the north are not as they should be. Like many of the people here, I played an active role in the campaign for Marion Price. The campaign for me was a real eye-opener on a number of levels, primarily in terms of the ill that continues to permeate our society under the guise of normalisation. The Good Friday Agreement of 1998 promised us a new beginning, an era in which justice would be done and would be seen to be done, and measures compatible with a normal and peaceful society. I voted for the Good Friday Agreement on that basis, but now see the current process employed in the north to be little more than a sectarian caravel. The agreement has failed us in many ways, as we now have more peace walls than before the agreement was signed, and we still await a promised Bill of Rights amongst other things. In terms of today's discussion, I believe the Good Friday Agreement gave way for the British government to reintroduce old tactics, but under new names. Tactics which are now facilitated by the Northern Ireland Assembly, which was set up under the Good Friday Agreement. Tactics facilitated by some of those who not only opposed them, but were themselves subjected to them. Tactics such as internment, forced isolation, diplock non-jury courts, and the reintroduction of the so-called Supergrass trial. The recent acquittal of Pat Livingstone from Belfast, who spent 17 years in prison for something he didn't do, shows the injustice meted out by the diplock court, but it also shows that it doesn't matter if you're innocent. If the British government want their pound of flesh, then they will have it. Internment, by definition, is to be confined for political and preventative reasons. Over 40 years on from the mass internment of the 1970s, the malignancy of internment still exists, but under different guises and not currently on the same scale. Guises such as lengthy pre-trial remand, as we've just heard, and licence revocation. Some have argued that it's different, that these people are being afforded due process, but what they fail to mention is these people are being held indefinitely and are being denied the right to a fair trial within a suitable time frame as guaranteed under the European Convention on Human Rights. These measures at the minute are used mostly against those classed as dissident Republicans. But that said, a very dangerous precedent has been set, and what we need to be asking is how far are they prepared to go and who's next. The mini-justice system set up to deal with potential disruption during the G8 summit showed that dissent from any quarter will be quelled, and in my opinion showed an awful lot of organising for just 1 week. A case that sticks in my mind most has to be that of 63-year-old Martin Corey, who we've just heard has been held for 3 years with neither charge, trial nor conviction at the dictate of the British Secretary of State. The Secretary of State has no mandate in the north, yet as we have seen on a number of occasions, has the power to overrule the judiciary to keep an Irish citizen in prison. The Secretary of State claims to take her advice from the Parole Commission, yet fails to mention that the Commission is employed by her and as such can be overruled and dismissed by her. They are part of the executive arm of the state and not the judicial. In the interest of justice, you would imagine there would be clear distinction between the judiciary and the British state. Unfortunately, this is not the case. The reality is Martin Corey, Stephen Murney, Tony Taylor, Christine O'Connor and others are victims of an inherently unjust system clearly loaded in favour of the British state. The system is loaded. It is evident when you look at how those responsible for the massacre on Bloody Sunday have yet to be held to account for their actions. We need to put pressure on the governments of this island to act. The governments who have either failed to learn the lessons of history or who are choosing to ignore them. The governments north and south of this island value their reputations and that of the world-famous peace process. We need to remind them publicly that internment has no place in any society, least of all a society claiming to promote peace. We need to insist that the Southern Government reflect on the 1916 proclamation with special reference to the sections that guarantee equal rights and opportunities to all citizens, not forgetting their promise to cherish all children of the nation equally. I say this as an Irish citizen who believes in the fundamentals of human rights. If the Southern Government is not making a concerted effort to support citizens whose human rights are being abused, then it is sadly failing in its responsibility to those citizens, and indeed all citizens. We need those on the Stormont Government to accept that with shared power comes shared responsibility and indeed culpability. True peace requires a lot more than window dressing. It requires a proper structure, justice, stability and accountability. Whilst there are politicians north and south of this island working tirelessly to address these issues, it's clearly not enough, and this is why I would encourage everybody to support this campaign. We are constantly being told to move on, that bad things happen at different times and in different circumstances, but internment will always be internment. Human rights abuse will always be human rights abuse. It doesn't matter if it was 1971 or 2013. It doesn't matter who is in power. The abuse of citizens by any state is wrong and will always be wrong. We need to question why our governments continue to implement reactive and regressive policies that fly in the face of true peace. Reactive and regressive policies that fly in the face of the human rights legislation and any notion of democracy. Again, I would encourage everybody to become part of this campaign. And finally, I would leave you with a few words. Justice. Justice is a core element in the establishment of true peace. And whilst it may be blind, or at least should be, those who administer it are not. Thanks.